So the story is, you see on the title, the story is about a self-defense shooting that took place um, in Longview, Washington, with my dad. And I decided to even tell it because I'm actually it's going in my book. So I'm writing a book and it's going to go in the book. And so since it's going out there anyway, I figured I would make a video explaining it um, as well. Because a lot of the stories that are in the book about myself are also, I've made videos of them. So anyone who follows me has seen the videos of the things that I went through. Probably the AMPM situation being probably my biggest situation. Um, so I got to give you a little bit of history. So my mother and father. So my father was born in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. Was raised in the back country until he was 11 years old, 11 or 12. And then he moved. My grandma got the kids and moved up to Washington, to Longview, Washington, because my grandpa had moved up here, I believe, for a job opportunity. My mom was a Seattle, a Seattleite. She was raised in Seattle, Washington, as was myself. But my on my mom's side, my mom has family in Longview, right? So my mom has family in Longview, Washington. And so she would go out to, her cousin's house, whatever, in Longview, Washington to go stay for a summer or whatever. And that's how my mom and my dad met. My dad moved up there from Arkansas, and my mom went out there for a summer. Met my dad, and I talk about how they met and all that stuff. But they were 13 years old when they actually met, and then began calling themselves boyfriend and girlfriend. They were 13 years old. My dad was 14, my mom was 13. And my mom and dad had my brother when my mom was 16 and my dad was 17. And they've been together ever since. They didn't marry until my brother was like 7. But they're still together ever since they were 13 years old. So that's a deep love story. You don't hear that often, but that was that. Hold on just a moment here. Okay, so they have my brother at 16 and 17 years old, and because they're so young, my brother spent a lot of time with my grandfather, which is my mom's dad. He spent a lot of time with my mom's dad. He spent a lot of time on my dad's side family too, but more so he spent time with my mom's father. And until they like really got stable, they got stable and was able to live, support each other, let alone a child. So there's still some things I don't know. Like I just thought about it. I'm like, was my brother there? I don't know. But here's the situation. So you got my mom's side of the family who live in Longview, and then you got my dad's side of the family. My dad's side of the family is huge, okay, huge. Um, and there's a lot of people on my mom's side of the family too. So when they met up, and you got to understand this is Longview, Washington. So if you're black, you pretty much know the other black people in the in the city basically, because it wasn't a diverse city. You know, it was very much a white city. And so if you were, if you were Japanese, you knew every Japanese in Longview. If you were black, you knew every black in Longview. It's how it was. And so my dad had then became really good friends with a lot of my mom's cousins and whatnot, right? And even my mom's brother, my uncle Jimmy. Um, and so I got to explain all that so that you understand how everything like came to. All right. Now, my if I remember correctly, my dad was like 18 or 19. In fact, when he was telling me, I think he said he was between 18 and 20, I believe he said. Um, and so let's just put it at 19. He's 19 years old. And you know what? I don't even think he was 19 now that I add certain things up. Wait a minute, because, yeah, I think he was fresh 18. He was fresh 18. So, anyhow, he has um, 7 siblings. Okay, he's got 2 sisters and a brother that are younger than him. So out of all total, including my dad, all 8 siblings, my dad is kind of in the middle, right? He has 2 younger sisters and a younger brother, and then he has 4 older sisters. That's how that works. I had to count on my on my aunts. I had to say that, thinking in my head. Okay, so anyway, so everybody gets along, for the most part. Like it's cool and happy in this place. Now, what happens is, um, there's a guy who is a drug dealer, big time drug dealer, right? Big time. Um, and my aunt was dating him. Now, she was dating him before she knew who he really was, you know what I mean? And then things started coming about, and she started learning who he really was. But she was in love at that point, and she just stuck with him, okay? Um, and I'm not going to say full names, all right, just because, like I said, it's a delicate situation. Even though this was years ago, it's still a delicate situation. Um, so she's dating this guy, and his name Cliff. Okay, Cliff. She's dating this guy named Cliff. He's a big time drug dealer. Now he's also a Golden Glove boxer, right? So he's a boxer. That's what he does. He loves to box. And in boxing, he somehow, because he would travel down to California and then back up to Washington, to Seattle, Longview, back down to, Portland, California. Like, he was traveling and selling drugs as he was doing this. He's getting his drugs from the mob. All right. This is real. This is a real situation. I'm gonna let you know right now. It sounds crazier than a lot of movies. Like, but it's real. Um, so he's pushing big weight, and everyone knows about it. The problem is he's so big, um, as far as his involvement and who he's connected to and stuff like that, that everyone is scared of him. Okay. So remember, he's a Golden Glove boxer. He can box his ass off. He was like 27 at the time. And he's working, he's getting his drugs and whatnot and working with and for the mob. All right. Now, stuff starts happening. He starts getting this God complex, and he's now thinking like nobody can touch him. Like, he started feeling untouchable because of his connects and just everything. And that's a normal thing for people who, do what he was doing to the at the level he was doing it. People start getting real comfortable and feeling invincible. And so, um, what started happening is he was getting into altercations with people, and he was beating people up and beating them bad. People going to the hospital, and having to be in the hospital for days because this guy just beat him to a pulp. Like, having to get your face, you know, restructured because they broke, half the bones in your face. Like, this is the kind of stuff he was doing. He was a madman. Now, as he started doing a lot of this stuff, people would call the police. And the police would go try and deal with him, but then they knew who he was. They knew his connections. And the police were afraid to do things like they were afraid to, go take him to jail, this, that, and the other, because of his mob ties. Again, this, like I said, it sounds crazy, but this is real. And you got to remember, this was in the 70s. This was in the 70s. I want to say between 73 and 76, somewhere around there. And so, yeah, people were calling the police and whatnot, and the police just really wouldn't do much with him. Okay, so he was a loose cannon. Now, it probably would have been a different story if somebody called the police on him in Seattle, because Seattle was a much bigger city, or even Portland. But in Longview, Washington, that was a small town, basically, and so the police precinct, and just, it was small, and they just felt outpowered by him and his connections. So here's what eventually happens. Like I said, my aunt's with this guy, and from what I remember hearing, he was very abusive to my aunt. So, and this is my dad's older sister, right? So my dad's like I said, fresh 18. Um, and his older sister, she's like 24, right? and he's like 27, I believe it is 27 or 28 years old. And so let me just go straight to the day. But I need to give you that background. But let me go straight to the day. So the night before, actually, the night before, my mom went to go stay over my dad's mom's house, and she went over there, and she had the kids with her. Like, it's why I said I don't remember if my brother was there or not, but she had kids with her, because it was like my dad's nieces and nephews and whatnot were in the house. Some of them. There was at least three kids in the house, and my mom had on her way driving there, she drove past like where the cemetery is at, and when she drove through there, through past the cemetery, she seen Clifford, Cliff. She seen him dancing like he was high. So he used to he would he would do a lot of drugs, and he was high, and so he was she seen him at the cemetery, and he was just like, like high, like walking through there. She couldn't tell. She said it looked like he was dancing on graves. But what I believe what was really going on, he was high walking through the cemetery, and he's just, when you're high, you're making crazy movements and whatnot, and I think that's what she's seeing. And so that was just crazy to her. She already knows about him, she knows he's crazy lunatic, this, that, and the other. And so she's seen that, and it was just something that she remembered. She got to my dad's mom's house, and there's kids there. Um, my one aunt who is in a relationship with this guy Cliff. So it's my mom, my aunt, and three kids, and my grandmother and grandfather in the house, and my dad, right, that night. But the next morning, my dad got up, he left, and he went to go hang out with my mom's cousins, which were my dad's friends. And my mom stayed at the house with the kids, whatever. What happened is this guy, drunk on power, money, and high on drugs, he came into the house and had a fight, argument, whatever, with my aunt, uh, trying to beat on her or whatever he was doing, okay? And what he was doing was out of pocket, basically. And so my grandmother got a hold of my grandfather and was like, look, this dude is, treating our daughter wrong again. Something needs to be done. He's like, we called the police, ain't nothing happening. So he overhears my grandmother talking about this, and he's drunk on power. Oh, you think he's going to do something? So he leaves and goes to where my grandfather's at. He goes to where he's at, words exchange, boom, he hit my grandpa, knocked him out. So he then goes back to the house and, disrespected my grandmother. I believe one person told me he was also started hitting my grandmother, okay? And everybody's a bitch and everything else. He's cussing at, you mother, woo, woo, woo. And what is anybody gonna do, right? So my mom gets on the phone, and she talks to my dad, and she's like, look, he's over here. I think he just went to go um, fight your dad. When he came back, he said he knocked your dad out. And so now my dad's pissed off. Now, but other people are now hearing about what happened at this point, because my grandpa, he came to, and he's all this mother ever, this, that, and the other, and so what people were trying to do is like they couldn't really do anything on a one-on-one situation, because this dude he was that tough. He's a Golden Glove boxer. And so one of my mom's cousins, which was, one of my dad's friends also, was like, hey, look, check this out. You need to get out of that house. They called down there and like, you need to get out of that house. And he was like, who's going to make me get out this house? This is my house now. And, nobody could make him leave because he would beat him up if they tried. So they're like, he's like, who's going to make me leave? So he's like, well, you'll see when I get there. So he went down there and they had a fight at the house, and Cliff beat him, got the best of him, knocked him out. So he's knocked out on the lawn, beat up. He couldn't do anything. So Cliff goes back in the house, and, more evil, more hell. And my mom's in here. The kids are in here. And this man has a rifle. Okay? So my dad finds out that his dad gets knocked out, his mom's getting hit on, and his sister's been, having problems with him. And he just knocked out kind of like the only other dude that they felt could possibly beat him, because he also boxed. But he lost. So my dad was like, all right, check this out. So my dad gets on the phone with him. He's like, hey, get out of my mom's house now. And he's like, come make me. Who you talking to? So my dad heads over there. Then when my dad gets in the house, he comes through the back door. He comes in the house and he gets on the phone immediately, and he's calling 911. Now, while he's calling 911, my aunt handed my dad the gun. She had a gun in her purse. I guess maybe she was planning on using it, because I think she was starting to get tired of getting abused, and so she had a gun and she gave it to my dad. It was a 38 special. And so my dad has this gun, and he's on the phone with the police on the other hand. And, he's going, hey, look, there's a guy in my house. He needs to get out. He's this, that, and the third. We tell him to leave. He won't leave. He's got a rifle. So as he's on the phone calling the police, the dude comes out of the room, and he's like, he sees my dad there on the phone. Who are you talking to? He's like, I'm calling the police, so you need to leave right now. And he's like, I'm not going nowhere. And he's like, all right, well, the police is on their way. And he's like, yeah, he just said he's not going nowhere, officer. I need help down here. Now, it's in the back of his mind that they might not come help, because, again, they're afraid of this dude, right? So as my dad's on the phone, the dude then notices, he sees this 38 special. And so he asks my dad, where you get that gun from? And my dad said, don't worry about it, I got it. Those are the exact words. Don't worry about it, I got it. And he walked closer to my dad, and he said, what you gonna do with that besides piss me off? And he's like, man, get out of here, man. Get out of here. I'm on, the police is right here. They can hear everything. So as he's on the phone saying, get out of here, and the dude's walking closer, what you gonna do with that gun? The dude swings at my dad. When he swings at my dad, at the exact same time that he hit my dad pulled the trigger and shot him. So my dad's actually going backwards. He's going down to the ground, like he knocked him down. This dude, he just knocked out my grandpa and then, my mom's cousin, who's a boxer. So when he hit my dad went back, and he's going with the punch with my dad, and my dad shot him down low. My dad shot him basically in the waist, just like right in the waist, basically. But just like a tad bit higher, because it wasn't his stomach necessarily. It wasn't his groin though. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, he shot him from down low, right? So he didn't bring the gun up, and this guy's right on him, right? So, and I'm saying this because a lot of people, they have their opinions on, oh, this is what really happens, or what would really happen in a situation. If a guy comes on you, then you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you got to do this, and all this crap, right? Well, I'm telling you what happened. The guy hit him, and as he hit him, and as he's going back, he shot him from down low, from like where his waist is. He shot him as he's going down. My dad hits the ground, still has gun in his hand, and the dude is on the ground. And he didn't die immediately. Also, the bullet did something weird because it went up. It went up when he hit him in the waist. It didn't like just go straight through it. It went up somehow. Not up to the heart, but it went up into the stomach and exited out, actually. And so once the guy hits the ground, my dad gets up. My dad actually takes off running. I don't know what he did with the gun, but he took off running to the police station on foot. As soon as he did that and the dude hit the ground, he thought he was dead immediately. And so my dad took off running to the police station on foot. It wasn't that far away. It was like a few blocks away. And so he just took off running. And the guy kind of woke up a little bit, and he started crawling. And he was crawling towards my mom. And, she got freaked out. Like, she's thinking in her head, this guy's going to try to take me with him as he's dying, basically. So she gets up off the, from where she was at, and she grabs the kids and pushes them into the room. She goes into the room, closes the door. But she can see he's dying. He's crawling, And that was that. He gets to the police station, and they came into the house and whatnot, and they concluded this is self-defense 100%. Man, it's almost like I might have to do 2 videos because it's another part of this. Yeah, I think I should, because we're at 30 minutes. All right, so I'm going to do a part 1 and a part 2. So that's that for right there. The police came in the house. They looked at the situation. The bullet actually went up almost into the ceiling. It was really high up on the wall. And so they could see that he was being attacked in his home and shot him. It was 100% self-defense. That's why I can talk about it. It's all good. And the police like congratulated him for it, like, you did a good job. And he basically did the job that they were afraid to do. Okay, because they was afraid of this guy. And they're also afraid for my dad. So, part 2 coming up.